Can you tell me a little bit about what brought you to this work and what's kept you involved?
Of course, I have 5 children,
Uh-huh.
and I was had a great dad who was he was a real leader and a teacher, but he was a friend. He was a good husband, and so I had a lot of advantages going in with somebody who was a model for me to do things well. Um, my dad and mom also extended themselves to, from time to time, take in other families who needed some temporary support.
Mm,
So I saw them operate outside the family, with kindness and generosity,
mhm.
uh, which really kind of gave me the tools that I needed to really get started. So when I was asked to do it, I didn't even really know what a fatherhood program was, but they gave me this big fat book of 700 pages and 11 modules called Fatherhood Development. Believe that so much of um, what I'm able to share is intuitive.
Mm,
And that comes from my ability to absorb the modeling that I experienced with my dad, but also to be able to be a good listener. So that's one of the things that I found out early on in my first group. We had 18 guys. We started meeting, and I thought it would go for 5 or 6 weeks. And at week 10, they wanted to call it a name and they didn't want to stop. And we ended up going for 22 weeks.
mm,
But
mm,
mostly I listened to them
mm,
and tried to explore with them, especially a retrospective exploration
mm,
when they wanted to look back and try to figure out what happened, especially the ones that did not grow up with their dad. What happened? How did I get here? What
mm.
was it like? What did I miss? What would it have been like if he was there?
Right.
How did I shape my ability to be a husband, a boyfriend, a partner, a father
Mhm.
without him there? Who else was there? What other family men were in my life that could support me in this journey? So I started off with those 22 weeks, and eventually I narrowed it down to 8 weeks. And usually it's with 12 guys. I've had as many as 35. I've had as
Wow.
little as two. But it's all a great experience, no matter how many are there.
Mhm.
I started out with only dads, and the moms would come to session 8, which was the graduation. And at the
Mm,
graduation, I always have each man stand up and talk about his journey that he
mm.
experienced through the 8 weeks that we were together. And at the end of it, the moms would come up and they say, well, not only is he a better father, but he's also a better partner. And it was always followed up by, we want to come. Now they come to session 1, 5, and 8. And session 5 is where we talk about the differences between men and women, moms and dads, and how important that is to children. One of the tenets of what I do is what I call backing into empathy. And I want them to explore that soft spot within themselves that's vulnerable and sensitive, because
Mm,
that's the spot that they need to connect with their child. I've worked with this thing called a father-friendly site assessment, and
mm.
I've used that on a number of places. I've used it extensively with WIC. They wanted to reframe that to make sure that dads knew that they were invited as well.
Right.
So I went to several of their sites and I looked at their policies, and policies can be great, but then practice, what's the practice look like?
Right. Right.
And what is the attitude and disposition of the staff? And then what does the physical environment look like? So I spent extensive time looking at all that. So I've been going to prisons under the Connecticut Department of Corrections for over 20 years. I think I've been in all the prisons that have been around, except for maybe two or three.
Mhm.
And when I first started, they had very, very strict protocol about what was allowed. It was almost inhuman. I could go there and, give a lecture, but there's certain things I couldn't do. I couldn't show any pictures. I couldn't bring any information.
Mhm.
So it was really punitive.
Mm. Mm.
But I was at a meeting in the last couple of months with Manson Youth Institute, and the person who is in charge of counseling asked me to come to a meeting. And when
Mhm.
I got there, the warden was there, and the assistant warden,
Oh my.
and the person that was the chief of counseling was there, and several other counselors were there. And I explained what I was going to do. I figured I might as well go all out and ask big as much as possible.
Mhm.
Before I got the words out, the warden said, "It's
Oh,
done." I just finished up with a graduation of 13 dads. So one thing, I mean, I get a lot of calls for professional development and staff training.
mhm.
And currently, that's probably 75% of my work. The other 25% is direct contact with dads in small groups. And I will never give that up. As long as I got breath in me, even if somebody has to push me in a wheelchair or something, I'm going in there because it's just a wonderful response and connection. So
Mhm.
I like to go in there prepared and sit with them. I'm not somebody who's like over them or talking down to them. I want to sit with them and I want to, it's like a dance. And you have to be in time, you have to be in step. I can't get too far ahead or too far behind. I've got to read the room. I've got to feel them, and I've got to have like these pregnant pauses where there's time to think. You know the
Right.
old saying that silence gives the soul a chance to speak. And to watch the transformation, that's the beautiful thing. That's the reward in this work. I mean, I've told a story many times that first couple of times I came home from doing a fatherhood group and walk in the house at, 7:30, 8 o'clock at night, and my wife's sitting in the recliner watching Lifetime or something. And I walk in the house and I'm still like tingling from the transformations that I've seen. And I'm like, babe, I got paid tonight. I got paid. And she says, Doug, you're a volunteer, but I'm still getting paid.
That
So
you.
structurally, words mean things. And the
Mhm.
connotation of responsible fatherhood tends to suggest that maybe they're not so responsible. Things like that send messages out to men that keep men standing in the background and don't open the door to invite them in. So those are structural things. But I
Mhm.
think the greatest opportunity that we have right now that I'm beginning to see more and more is we do so much intervention work that's after the fact. And many of our agencies are engaged in intervention work after the fact. We need to get out front and start to begin to invite families in during the pregnancy.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
that seems to me to be the golden opportunity. So, for a number of reasons, a guy will get to know, he'll get to think about the way he came up in his childhood because he's got this baby coming, right? And this baby's coming into the world, and it's a good opportunity to think and also heal as far as what's happened in the past. Did I grow up with my dad? If I did, what was it like? What can I do better? What did he do right, or what didn't he do?
Mhm.
And the same opportunity for mom at the same time, and they can do it together.
What is it that maintains your sense of commitment and hope?
It's so rewarding, and it's not complicated. It's I mean, I do get some dopamine and some oxytocin. So it helps my physical health and my mental health as well. Seeing the reward that comes from it, to see people prosper and become engaged. Some of them become contributing members of their community. They've been so much better for their families. They've experienced forgiveness, and
Mhm.
there's so many good points to it. I can hardly. I mean, I am just immensely blessed